Have you ever heard the saying? Sometimes the person you least expect ends up being the one who changes everything. That's exactly what happened. When a poor mechanic walked into her life, bringing with him not wealth, not power, but something she had never truly known before. And by the end of this story, you'll see why life sometimes takes the most unexpected turns to bring us the love and hope we didn't even know we were searching for. Isabella Monroe was the kind of woman people admired from afar. At 32, she had it all. Or at least, that's what it looked like. She was the CEO of her late father's automobile company, living in a grand penthouse that touched the sky, and driving cars that most people only saw in magazines. The world looked at her and said, she's blessed. But behind the glass walls of her office, and the marble floors of her home, Isabella was a woman drowning in silence. Her father's sudden death had left her company on her shoulders, and while she proved herself to be strong in business, her personal life was crumbling. Friends had vanished when her wealth couldn't buy happiness. Lovers had come and gone, leaving her emptier each time, because none of them saw her heart, only her fortune. One rainy evening, she sat by her window, looking down at the blurred city lights. The echo of laughter from couples walking in the streets below cut through her loneliness. She whispered to herself, "What's the point of everything if I have no one to share it with?" The next morning, her expensive car broke down on the way to an important board meeting. Furious and frustrated, she called for roadside assistance. Minutes later, an old rusty tow truck pulled up beside her sleek black Mercedes. Out stepped a man in oil-stained overalls, his hands rough from years of hard work, his eyes warm and unexpectedly kind. "Morning, ma'am," he said, with a gentle smile. "Looks like she gave up on you today." His name was Daniel Carter, a poor mechanic who had grown up fixing cars in his late father's workshop. Life had never been easy for him. He lived in a small rented house on the outskirts of town, barely making ends meet. But he carried something rare: contentment. Where Isabella saw failure and emptiness, Daniel saw challenges and opportunities. As he worked on her car, Isabella found herself strangely drawn to his calmness. He wasn't intimidated by her expensive suit or her powerful presence. He spoke to her like she was human, not like the CEO Monroe everyone else bowed to. "You know," he said, wiping grease from his hands, "machines break down when they're overworked. Same goes for people." Isabella froze. No one had ever dared to speak to her that way. Yet his words struck her deeply, like he had looked right into her tired soul. From that day, their paths began to cross in the most unexpected ways. Her car would happen to need servicing at his small garage. Sometimes she would drive past his shop, just to catch a glimpse of him working, his laughter echoing through the air as he taught local kids about engines. For the first time in years, Isabella felt something real stirring in her heart. Weeks turned into months, and Isabella began spending more time around Daniel. At first, she told herself it was curiosity, wanting to understand how someone with so little could seem so happy. But the truth was, she was falling. Daniel showed her a world she had never known. He took her to local diners, where laughter filled the air more than money ever could. He introduced her to his neighbors, people who shared meals, even when they had barely enough for themselves. He taught her how to fix a flat tire with her own hands, laughing when she smudged grease across her face. For once, Isabella wasn't the CEO. She wasn't the woman people envied. She was just Isabella. A woman learning how to live. But not everyone saw their growing bond with kind eyes. Her business partners ridiculed her, warning that her reputation would be destroyed if she continued being seen with poor nobody. Her mother, cold and calculating, accused her of dishonoring the family legacy. "You have everything, Isabella," her mother hissed. "Why throw it away for a mechanic who has nothing?" Isabella's heart tore in two. The pressure of wealth, status, and expectations weighed on her. Yet every time she looked into Daniel's eyes, she saw something money could never buy: love without conditions. One evening, after a long day of corporate battles, Isabella drove to Daniel's workshop. She found him fixing an old car for free, because the owner couldn't afford to pay. Watching him, she finally understood. This man had more wealth than anyone she knew. Not in money, but in heart. Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered, "Why are you doing this? Why help when you get nothing in return?" Daniel looked up, wiping sweat from his brow. "Because real value isn't in what you own. It's in what you give." Those words became the turning point. Isabella made her choice. She stood before her board. Before her mother, before the world, and declared that she would live her life by her own heart. She didn't care about the whispers, the judgment, or the headlines. For the first time, she chose happiness over appearances. Months later, Isabella and Daniel walked hand in hand through the same city streets she once watched from her lonely window. She no longer felt envy for the couples laughing below. She was one of them now, laughing, living, and loving. And when life got tough, as it always does, Daniel would hold her close and remind her, "Machines break down, people do too. But with the right care, both can run again." Isabella realized that her life hadn't taken a step backward by choosing Daniel. It had leapt forward into something richer, fuller, and more real than she ever imagined. So, when a poor mechanic walked in, Isabella's life didn't just change. It transformed. She learned that true wealth isn't measured by what sits in your bank account, but by who stands beside you when the world turns dark. And maybe, just maybe, this story is a reminder for all of us. Sometimes the greatest blessings come from the most unexpected people.